Greetings. My name is Sarah. At 42 years old, I find myself nestled in the comforting warmth of our living room, yet overwhelmed by an undercurrent of grief and longing as I write these words. Newfound courage stirs within me, urging me to shape my emotions into something tangible. This act of writing is not just for my own healing, it's a beacon of hope for others who might find fragments of their own stories in mine. Just a few months ago, my beloved husband Andrew and I were basking in the peace of our 18-year journey together. Then, fate cruelly snatched him away. The ache of his absence is fresh and sharp, as if time itself suspended its movement the moment I heard of his fatal car accident. The future we had dreamed of, one filled with laughter, love, and unwavering companionship, crumbled in an instant. I never imagined that at 42, I would be navigating life as a widow. The bond Andrew and I shared was profound, forged in the fires of adversity. We were like two broken souls who found healing in each other's embrace. My own journey began with abandonment, my parents lost to addiction, leaving behind emotional scars. Andrew, too, had faced his own battles, growing up with a mother, Evelyn, who betrayed him repeatedly with her promises of change, only to fall back into destructive habits, manipulating him to support her addiction before vanishing time and again. Together, Andrew and I built a love that transcended the pain of our pasts. We were each other's refuge, a place of trust and understanding, rising above the wounds life had dealt us. For a time, it felt as though we were finally free of the shadows that had haunted us for so long. 3 years had passed since Evelyn last disrupted our lives, and Andrew had come to accept that she might never change. This story is my way of processing the shared history Andrew and I created and the reality I now face without him. My hope is that it can inspire resilience in others who are grappling with their own turmoil. Our love was powerful enough to heal deep wounds, yet it wasn't enough to protect us from the cruel hand of fate. His sudden departure left me in a storm of sorrow and unanswered questions. How could life be so cruel, taking away the one person who had truly understood and accepted me? In the aftermath of Andrew's loss, I found myself wanting to retreat from the world, seeking solace in the quiet of my bedroom. But time, like death, shows no mercy. It moves on, indifferent to our pain. And so, we began the heart-wrenching task of planning Andrew's funeral. With the passing of each day, I found comfort in the support of friends and family. Together, we navigated the sorrowful farewell, ensuring that Andrew's departure was marked with the dignity he deserved. We organized a funeral at home, a space where we could honor his memory and share stories that brought both tears and laughter. Just as the atmosphere settled, with the air thick with the fragrance of freshly cut flowers, the doorbell rang. I approached the door, my heart fluttering with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. There, standing among the mourners, was Evelyn, Andrew's estranged mother, holding a bottle of whiskey as some kind of peace offering. She seemed out of place, her desperation for reconciliation palpable. A flood of emotions surged through me, anger, resentment, confusion mingled with a deep ache for closure. Yet, when I looked into Evelyn's tear-streaked face, something in her eyes shifted. Beneath the years of hurt, there was a flicker of understanding. I opened my arms, and she stepped forward, allowing us to embrace. The tears that flowed between us spoke of unspoken sorrows, a moment of connection that began to dissolve years of bitterness. Evelyn's quiet confessions of regret washed over me. Though the wound she caused would never fully heal, I found in my heart a small spark of compassion. The room was heavy with a complex dance of emotions as friends and family, aware of the history between Evelyn and Andrew, cautiously welcomed her into the fold. Their support for me was clear. They set aside their own reservations to offer her a place at our table. Throughout the gathering, Evelyn shared stories of her own struggles with addiction, offering a glimpse into her pain and her desperate yearning for redemption. What began as a day of grief transformed into an unexpected step toward healing, not just for me, but perhaps for Evelyn as well. As she spoke of the remorse she felt for the harm she'd caused Andrew, I could feel my heart soften. Beneath the layers of disappointment and regret, there still flickered the love of a mother, tarnished, but not extinguished. Her words painted an intimate portrait of the son she had lost along the way, and as the service came to a close and guests began to leave, Evelyn remained behind. My sisters and I quietly tidied up, grateful for her unexpected help. In a quiet, vulnerable moment, she turned to me, her voice trembling with hope and uncertainty. "Sarah," she said, "I know I have no right to ask this, but could I have a chance to say goodbye to my son, maybe through his belongings?" I met her gaze, my heart filled with both curiosity and caution. Still, I wanted to listen. "What is it you'd like to ask?" I replied, encouraging her gently. With a deep breath, Evelyn spoke her request. And in that moment, I recognized the depth of her regret and longing, another step in a journey toward healing, both for her and for me. I paused, contemplating the weight of Evelyn's request. Her eyes searched mine, sensing my hesitation, and she quickly added, "I know it's an unusual ask, and you have every right to say no, but if I could just touch his clothes or smell his cologne, maybe, just maybe, I could feel connected to him again, even though he's gone." Despite the pain and resentment still clinging to my heart, there was something undeniably sincere in her voice, a vulnerability I couldn't ignore. She was grieving in her own way, and her remorse was palpable. I took a deep breath before answering softly, "Evelyn, I see how much you loved Andrew. The regret in your eyes is clear. If this could bring you some comfort, then yes, you may go up to his room and spend time with his things. Take all the time you need." Gratitude flooded Evelyn's expression, and she whispered, "Thank you, Sarah. Your kindness means more to me than you can imagine." As she made her way up the stairs, I reflected on the day, on the morning, the unexpected moments of reconciliation, and perhaps, just maybe, a small step toward healing not only for Evelyn but for all of us touched by Andrew's life and legacy. A whirlwind of emotion stirred within me as Evelyn disappeared upstairs. Part of me hoped this act would offer her some form of closure, a way to heal the broken bond between mother and son, but another part of me remained cautious, mindful of how easily these delicate moments of vulnerability could become entangled with the past's unresolved wounds. I found myself contemplating the fragile nature of human relationships. They could be torn apart in an instant, yet they were also capable of great resilience when nurtured through understanding, forgiveness, and time. In that moment, I chose to embrace forgiveness and grace, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I might question this choice in the future. About 25 minutes later, Evelyn returned from the bedroom, her eyes swollen and red from crying. The stoic facade she usually wore had completely melted away, leaving only raw vulnerability in its place. She took a deep breath, her voice shaking as she spoke. "Thank you for allowing me this time with Andrew," she said, her words carrying a weight of genuine gratitude. "I'm truly grateful for your kindness and understanding." Her sincerity tugged at something within me, and I felt a twinge of sympathy. Despite everything, as Evelyn said her final goodbyes, a palpable sense of closure seemed to fill the room. The emotional weight of the day hung in the air like a heavy blanket, but it was also a silent testament to the complex web of feelings we had all navigated together. With heavy hearts, we watched as Evelyn left the house, each of us processing the day's events in our own way. As the hours passed and the evening sun cast a warm golden glow through the windows, my sisters and I found solace in one another's company. We shared memories of Andrew, gentle laughter easing the sorrow, and drew strength from the love that bound us together as a family. As the light outside deepened into dusk, exhaustion began to settle in. One by one, my sisters said their goodbyes, seeking rest after the long, draining day. For the first time that day, the house felt still and quiet, a temporary peace enveloping me as I sat in the comfort of my own thoughts. I found myself alone in the quiet sanctuary of my room, enveloped in the stillness. The silence pressed in, amplifying the weight of Evelyn's earlier request, a private moment with Andrew's belongings. As the room remained silent and unmoving, my mind wandered back over the emotional journey of the day, grappling with the complexities of forgiveness and the paths we choose in our search for peace. Overcome by a deep curiosity and a longing to feel close to Andrew, even in his absence, I found myself drawn to the tangible remnants of his life. With gentle reverence, I began sifting through his belongings, each item an intimate testament to the man he was. I picked up his favorite watch, its rhythmic ticking a soft reminder of the precious moments we had shared. My fingers traced the well-worn spines of his books, imagining the stories that had once whispered to him in the quiet of the evening. Turning to the dresser, I examined the items salvaged from the car wreck, his phone, work bag, second watch, and wallet, but as I scanned the contents, a sinking feeling overtook me. The wallet was missing. Panic surged through me, and desperation crept in as I frantically searched the room. I tore through every drawer, checked every corner, but the wallet seemed to have vanished into thin air. The realization struck me with overwhelming force: the wallet retrieved from the wreckage was now gone. In my distress, I knew I couldn't solve this mystery alone. Perhaps I had been mistaken and it had never been returned to me. With trembling hands, I dialed Gary, a dear friend who had been present at the funeral and had played a key role in retrieving Andrew's belongings. As a trusted member of the police department, Gary had the skills and dedication to help uncover the truth. The phone rang, and with each passing second, my heart pounded harder, tears streaming down my face. When Gary's calm voice answered, I poured out my anguish, explaining the circumstances and the urgency of the situation. With a heavy sigh, Gary confirmed that he had indeed returned Andrew's wallet, along with the other items. Relief mixed with confusion washed over me. If Gary had returned the wallet, then where could it have gone? A chilling realization struck me like a bolt of lightning, illuminating the dark corners of my mind. The wallet could only have been taken by Evelyn, my estranged and manipulative mother-in-law, who must have seized the opportunity to snatch it while I was immersed in my grief, unaware of any ulterior motives. Taking a deep breath, I shared my suspicions with Gary, my voice trembling with a blend of anger, sadness, and disbelief. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Gary reassured me with determination. Andrew was one of my best friends, and I promise you, if Evelyn had anything to do with this, we'll uncover the truth and make sure she faces the consequences. His words were like a warm embrace, sparking a flicker of hope within me. Despite the shadows that loomed and the uncertainty clouding my path, I felt a renewed sense of resolve. Gary was by my side, and together, we would delve into the murky depths of this twisted tale, uncover Evelyn's motives, and bring closure to this painful chapter of our lives. As the days passed, the weight of grief still pressed heavily upon me, but I was jolted by yet another disturbing revelation. A steady stream of bank statements sent to both my and Andrew's phones revealed troubling patterns of transactions. It started with smaller amounts, $1, $600 here, $3,000 there, but quickly escalated into a torrential flood of deductions, with sums exceeding $5,000 draining from Andrew's hard-earned savings. Fear and concern gripped my heart as I watched the relentless siphoning of his funds. It felt like a violation, a desecration of his memory that cut me to the core. With a heavy heart, I reached out to Gary again, seeking his guidance and solace in the face of this new ordeal. His voice, filled with empathy and resolve, filled the line. You need to get Andrew's cards deactivated immediately to stop these unauthorized transactions, he advised. His words were practical, urgent, but following them meant facing a harsh reality, canceling credit and debit cards, terminating subscriptions, severing financial ties. Each action was a stark reminder that Andrew was truly gone. As the anger built within me, fueled by Evelyn's audacious actions, a rebellious thought took root. How dare she squander my late husband's money with such reckless abandon? No, I resolved, I would not succumb to her wicked game so easily. I was resolved to face this challenge head-on, to protect Andrew's legacy and defend his memory from those who sought to exploit it. As I continued to deal with the turmoil Evelyn brought into our lives, a plan began to form in my mind. I decided to let her continue using the cards, giving her the false sense of security that she was getting away with it while I quietly held the power. I would gather evidence, watch her every move, and wait for the right moment to expose her deceit and reclaim what was rightfully Andrew's. This decision wasn't made lightly. It meant enduring the harsh reality of his absence for a little longer, but my resolve was unwavering. I was determined to bring Evelyn's true nature to light and show the world what she had done. I would document every transaction she made, keeping track of every dollar she spent until the moment arrived for confrontation. It was a delicate dance, letting her revel in her perceived control while I prepared to dismantle her carefully built facade. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Despair would hit me in waves, but each time, determination would pull me back. The loving memories of Andrew kept me strong. I wasn't going to let Evelyn tarnish his legacy. When the time came, I would confront her, and it would be unforgettable. As the weeks passed, Evelyn's actions became even more brazen. The money she continued to drain from Andrew's accounts was staggering, and each new transaction only deepened my disgust. How could she be so shameless? How could she betray her own son's memory in such a way? Every time I saw a new charge, my anger grew, but I knew I had to wait for the right moment. Then, one day, as I opened the door to my house, there she stood, Evelyn, her face twisted in a feigned expression of remorse, but I wasn't fooled. "Hello, Sarah," she said, her voice tentative. "No, you may not come in," I replied firmly, blocking the doorway. I wasn't about to let her manipulate me any longer. "I imagined as much," she said with a resigned tone, her words laced with deceit. I stood my ground, prepared to protect what remained of Andrew's life from her manipulations. Evelyn then spoke, her voice soft with what appeared to be guilt. "I imagine you've noticed that Andrew's wallet is missing. I'm so sorry, Sarah. In my grief, I took it. I thought my time to say goodbye would be brief, so I took it as a keepsake." "Really?" I thought, struggling to conceal my disbelief. "Really?" I echoed aloud. Yes, she admitted, her voice faltering. It was wrong of me, but I've come to my senses. I'm going to return it. Anger surged inside me, but I kept my composure. This was my chance to finally reveal the full extent of her lies. I handed her a document, a detailed record of every penny she had stolen from Andrew, along with a breakdown of the legal charges she would now face. Her hand shook as she read it, and her eyes widened in fear and confusion. "What's this?" she stammered. "It's a record of the money you've stolen from Andrew. It also outlines the legal consequences you now face," I said, my voice steady. In an instant, her facade crumbled. She sank to the front porch, overwhelmed by the weight of her actions. Without hesitation, I called for an ambulance. When Evelyn regained consciousness in the sterile environment of a hospital room, handcuffed and facing the reality of her crimes, the truth hit her with full force. She screamed, demanding to be released, but I remained calm. I had no intention of letting her escape the consequences of what she had done. With the help of Gary, my trusted friend in law enforcement, I had gathered enough evidence to ensure that Evelyn would face the full weight of the law. We had calculated the likely amount of time she would spend behind bars, a fitting punishment for her despicable actions. Reflecting on the journey that had brought me here, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Justice was being served, but the road to this point had been fraught with pain and betrayal. Through it all, I had found a strength I never knew I had, fueled by the love and memories of Andrew. The thought that I had honored his memory by exposing Evelyn's treachery brought peace to my heart. Andrew's legacy had been safeguarded, and Evelyn would now face the consequences of her fraudulent actions. With this chapter closed, I could finally begin to move forward, free from the shadow of her deceit. It was a bittersweet victory. Andrew was gone, but his spirit could now rest, knowing that justice had prevailed. This journey had been painful, but it was also a reminder that no act of deceit goes unchecked, and that love, determination, and integrity can triumph even in the darkest of times. The truth had found its way to light, and with it, I had reclaimed my peace.